You may have noticed a long line of Nebraska state troopers this afternoon driving through Omaha.
It had a specific purpose. Our Brian Mastre explains.
The world is just so bizarre right now, and so getting news like this on top of everything that's going on has been really hard.
Jill Carson's Aunt Barb.
My mom is her sister.
Drove herself to her chemotherapy appointment 2 weeks ago. It would be her last. It's not working. Metastatic breast cancer. It's getting worse.
Not being able to physically be with family and comfort each other is super hard. So when I heard that the troopers were doing this, it's just really special.
Barb Clintope spent the last 40 years as a dispatcher for the Nebraska State Patrol in Omaha.
We're here to celebrate what she's done for us.
So when troopers heard the 64-year-old was being transferred in an ambulance from Methodist Hospital to the hospice house,
everybody just thought the world of her. She is probably one of the sweetest, nicest people you'd ever meet.
they provided the escort.
She's just a wonderful person.
A 6-minute drive through the city with the State Patrol in tow.
If you talk to any trooper that's worked up inside of Omaha, everybody would tell you this is the least that we can do for her. We hold her up on a whole different pedestal, so she's very special to us.
If she didn't know that, she knows now.
They just love her, and she loves them, and she would do anything for the troopers, and likewise they would do anything for her. So just to see their support has been really amazing.
As a dispatcher, Barb Clintope was used to telling the state troopers where to go. This time, they followed her lead, understanding they won't hear her voice on the radio again.
I'm told Barb Clintope knew a couple of troopers were stopping by today. As you can see, the escort was way more than a couple. A fitting tribute for a woman who made a big impact on the city in ways she may not even know. Live in the studio, Brian Mastre, 6 News. New tonight, looking back at a case in the heartland that sent shockwaves through newsrooms across the country. A young woman who lived just 5 minutes from work and was headed to work vanished. Families of victims of cold cases know far too well. Anniversaries sometimes stir memories, leading to new clues to help catch a killer. New flowers and messages adorn a 25-year-old memorial for an Iowa morning anchor woman who was abducted on her way to work in 1995. The team of volunteer journalists and detectives dedicated to finding Jody Husentrut left this note. Those of us searching will continue to hope until we find you.
25 years have gone by. It is hard to believe. It really is.
This is a story that has...
Doug Murbach hired me for my first news job at KIMT in Mason City, Iowa. He also brought in Jody Husentrut.
I mean, you were here. Did you think you kind of felt like they'll have this wrapped up in a day or two? It's a small town. How difficult could it be?
On June 27, 1995, Jody Husentrut, a 27-year-old journalist, overslept her early morning shift. She seemed groggy when she answered a wake-up call from a morning producer and said she'd be right in. But someone abducted her on the way to a car outside her apartment. Those circles represent her belongings found scattered on the ground.
I worked here in the mid-'70s.
Janet Mason, who used to run a news department at an NBC station in Minneapolis, came to the memorial to honor Jody, who had applied for a news job back then.
I gave her a little quick critique of her work on some things that she could work on and said, let's stay in touch. And a month or two later, she disappeared.
John Van Cise named his boat after Jody and said he was the last known person to see her alive watching a birthday video the night before. Investigators named him a person of interest, and decades later got a search warrant to see where his car GPS had been. In 1995, he called TV stations to celebrate and opened champagne for what he called passing the lie detector test. Another person of interest, Tony Jackson, a serial rapist, lived just a few blocks from the TV station where Jody and I worked. Jackson says he had nothing to do with her disappearance. He's serving a life sentence for rape. After 25 years, the billboard says it all, I think. Someone knows something. Is it you?
Our 1-hour morning show. It's a rainy Monday morning, June 20th.
Many in the community know other cold cases have received a new tip after 25 years that solved it. So why not Jody's story?
I just feel like it's time for me to set aside trying to understand why it happened and accept the fact that it did happen.
Robin Wolfram, my evening co-anchor in 1995, and Jody's best friend at work, isn't sure who's responsible.
There's not one day that I give up hope, but I also choose to remember Jody in a beautiful way so we can also celebrate the life that she did live.
25 years ago, thousands of dollars came in for a reward fund for information leading to an arrest. We see it happen all the time. But since there weren't any arrests, the money just sat there. It's now used for a journalism scholarship in her name at her alma mater, St. Cloud State University in Minnesota.
If we told you that we were doing a story on a Nebraska couple living past the century mark, you'd probably think that that's an incredible feat of health and endurance.
But this isn't one of those stories. As Brian Mastre explains, they have something else to tout, something none of us can claim.
The year 1935, a young couple comes here to the Burke County Courthouse in Tekamah, Nebraska to get married. He's 17, she's 16. The first judge they saw wouldn't do it. Then they found another one to marry them.
And everybody said it'd never last.
Boy, were they wrong. Today marks Ralph and Dorothy Kohler's 85th wedding anniversary. Think about that. 85 years together in marriage.
You don't ever think you'd make it, but we did. That was the main thing.
A few years ago, when Ralph and Dorothy were in their 90s, they moved from Nebraska to California to be closer to one of their daughters. Now you need a limo to fit in all those words of this accomplishment. They claim the title of America's oldest, longest living married couple.
Neither one of us ever smoked or drank, of which that was no problem.
I like to cook and he likes to eat.
In life, there's something to be said for being agreeable. Each grew to love the passions of the other.
Love, for one thing, and we both enjoy the same things. And if we didn't, we accepted it. And Dorothy loved ballroom dancing, and I loved to shoot clay targets. So I joined her with ballroom dancing, and she joined me with trap shooting.
The yin and yang of a couple with 3 kids and countless grandchildren and beyond. Dorothy even became a trap shooting national champ in 1952. Ralph spent most of his years outdoors as a commercial waterfowl guide. He wrote a book about his life and shares space with other legends of the outdoors in the Hall of Fame. And when it comes to advice, Ralph has 102 years of experience there. So, what should we do if there's conflict at home?
If we had anything real a problem, I agreed to it. That's the best way to get out of that.
For a couple who knows the importance of setting goals, why not shoot for a 100th anniversary?
That's 15 years, isn't it? I don't know. I'd like to be, but I doubt it. I think we're pretty fortunate to be this far along.
So much for the doubters. Happy 85th anniversary, Ralph and Dorothy. I'm Brian Mastre, 6 News.
I love that story. And yes, happy anniversary, Ralph and Dorothy. Well, when they got married, FDR was president at the Burke County Courthouse, where they found an agreeable judge to get married. The building is just 1 year older than Ralph.